1. Ban on words. For years, die-hard wrestling fans had heard the stories of Vince McMahon's weird preferences and dislikes. He disliked some words for no apparent reason, and replaced them with other words, something which made no sense at all. A prime example is that Vince hated the word hospital. Yeah, you heard that right. Vince didn't want his announcers to use the term hospital and preferred that they call it medical facility to sound more TV-friendly. He also hated the word belt, as he felt it was too outdated. Instead, the words title or championship were more frequently used. The most outrageous one of them is all the banning of the term pro wrestling and replacing it with sports entertainment. So when Triple H came to power, he immediately lifted the ban on a lot of phrases, specifically pro wrestling. He sure as hell knows that some words won't impact their ratings. 2. Quality over quantity. McMahon was the type of guy who would prefer having ridiculously short matches, especially when it came to female stars and the lower part of the roster. This resulted in several WWE pay-per-views having 10 to 15 matches on the card that would last over 4 hours. Although some of the matches, especially the main event, would be entertaining, the rest of them would just be boring fillers, and the audience hated going through it. They just wanted to skip to the main event, but by that time, they would be dead tired and the excitement would have faded. Thankfully, that has changed after TKO Sports took over. Triple H has chosen to put much more emphasis on storytelling in the ring, especially when it comes to premium live events. This approach seems to help solidify the overall product. A perfect example is the 2025 Elimination Chamber, which was a great show with a blockbuster finish, yet featured only 4 matches on the card. They were the men's and women's Elimination Chamber, a women's tag team match, and a singles match between Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. 3. Freedom of speech. Ever since Vince McMahon took over his father's company in 1983, he's been heavily involved in controlling what WWE wrestlers say on screen. Back in the 80s and early 90s, promos were usually pre-taped in front of green screens, often with an over-the-top or cheesy vibe. But when WWE shifted to more live segments, Vince doubled down on scripting every word. That approach didn't always work out smoothly. One of the most awkward moments came when Braun Strowman completely forgot his lines and was visibly mouthing the script to himself, trying to stay on track. But after Triple H took over, there has been more room for improvisation. While the superstars are still handed over scripts, they can now express themselves more by using their own distinctive personalities. Superstars like Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch have taken full advantage of this change to cut some monstrous promos. Do you think Triple H will allow improvisation while wrestling too? 4. Mending relationships. For years, Vince McMahon was known for holding serious grudges against wrestlers he believed had crossed him or shown disloyalty. One group he especially despised were former stars who had taken legal action against WWE over injuries they suffered while working for the company. Some of these wrestlers had contributed significantly to WWE and were worthy of Hall of Fame induction, but a salty Vince McMahon would never allow that to happen. That mindset seems to be fading under the current leadership led by Triple H. Under the keen observation of TKO Holdings, Triple H has started mending the relationship with the superstars who had beef with McMahon. For instance, Lex Luger was recently inducted into the 2025 Hall of Fame. McMahon had harbored resentment toward Luger ever since he left WWE without warning and showed up on WCW Monday Nitro the following night. But Triple H believes that holding on to grudges is bad for the company's image, so he's trying to clean up the mess left by his father-in-law. 5. Promoting realism. For decades, Vince McMahon was heavily criticized by old-school promoters and traditional wrestlers who believed he had turned professional wrestling into something closer to a circus than a legitimate sport. Many of those criticisms weren't entirely wrong, especially when you look back at how he reshaped the business. Before McMahon took over, the idea of turning wrestlers into outlandish cartoon-like characters or having undead morticians like The Undertaker headline major events would have been laughed off by most serious wrestling minds. That trend continued for years, with characters like the Boogeyman eating worms on live television, or the Fiend seemingly summoning supernatural forces. At one point, The Miz and Damian Priest were even booked in a match involving zombies, which pushed the boundaries of believability to their absolute limit, as commentators scrambled to explain what fans were watching with a straight face. Today, things are changing. Under Triple H's creative direction, the product has started leaning more toward grounded storytelling. Aside from the mysterious Wyatt Six, the days of black magic gimmicks seem to be fading, helping fans reconnect with WWE on a more realistic level. 6. Wrestlers can work part-time. For the longest time, WWE operated under a strict rule that kept its superstars away from independent wrestling events, and Vince McMahon was firm on that stance. His logic made sense from a business perspective. He wanted to avoid the risk of one of his top talents suffering an injury in a lower-profile setting, and he likely felt that appearing on smaller shows would take away some of the mystique or exclusivity surrounding his brand. During Vince's reign, taking a booking outside the WWE bubble wasn't just frowned upon, it was practically unthinkable. But as times have changed, so has WWE's approach. Triple H says he has no problem with wrestlers revisiting the very places that helped launch their careers. He's giving them more flexibility to have some fun and take a break from the overly exhausting WWE. The shocking thing is that Hunter himself has made some appearances at a few independent shows, showing just how far the company has come in embracing the wrestling world beyond its own walls. 7. Weird name rule. It was a pattern fans grew all too familiar with. A wrestler would arrive in WWE, build momentum, and start gaining real traction with the audience, only for Vince McMahon to suddenly change their name. Sometimes it was a complete rebrand, but more often, it meant chopping their name in half for reasons that were never clearly explained. Whether it was Austin Theory becoming just Theory, Matt Riddle becoming Riddle, or even Bobby Lashley occasionally being referred to simply as Lashley, the trend confused fans and felt unnecessary. It often disrupted the connection performers had started building with the audience. While the name changes were rarely deal breakers, they became a running joke among fans who wondered why McMahon had such a fixation with single-word identities. Whatever the reason, the mononym era is one of those WWE quirks that most fans are happy to see fading away in recent years. 8. Pushing the women's division. Triple H has been a huge advocate for treating the women's division with the respect and attention it deserves. During Vince's helm, women were just used as eye candies, and their matches were awful to watch. They never cut any real promos and just wrestled for the sake of it, without any good storylines. But since Triple H stepped into leadership roles, he has pushed to make women's wrestling a main event caliber attraction. He emphasizes strong storytelling, athleticism, and rivalries that matter. Nowadays, the women's division sees longer matches which are more competitive and often receive top ratings on major shows. Now, stars like Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair have received legendary status, just like their male counterparts. 9. More belts. When Triple H took the wheel, one of the things he understood was that WWE needed more championships to give wrestlers real goals to chase, and fans more reason to get invested. In the past, there were only a handful of belts, which sometimes meant a lot of talented performers didn't get their moment to shine, or felt stuck waiting for a title opportunity that might never come. By introducing new championships and reviving some old ones, Triple H created more layers and storylines within WWE shows. This not only gives wrestlers chances to prove themselves, but also spices up the weekly programming with fresh rivalries. More belts mean more stakes and more reasons for fans to tune in. Since stepping into power, Triple H has added titles like the new World Heavyweight Championship for Raw and the Women's World Championship, offering top stars fresh goals on each brand. The undisputed WWE Tag Team Championships were also unified and later split again, helping create clearer paths for tag teams. 10. Better wellness policies. Triple H has made it clear that wrestlers' health and safety have to come first. In past eras, there was a push-through-the-pain mentality that sometimes led to wrestlers risking their long-term health just to stay on TV. Triple H has worked to change that culture by improving WWE's wellness policies and focusing on better medical care and injury prevention. This means that if a wrestler gets hurt, they're given the time and resources to recover fully than being rushed back too soon. It also means more education around fitness, mental health, and lifestyle choices to help performers stay at their best. The theory is simple. The longer athletes can stay healthy, the better their careers and lives will be after wrestling. Their longevity in the ring can also boost WWE ratings greatly. 11. Better belt designs. During the 80s and 90s, WWE featured some truly stunning championship belt designs. They weren't all winners, but the good far outweighed the bad. During the 2010s, though, the quality of the championship designs took a nosedive. They looked like cardboard cutouts, and the fans were left extremely disappointed because they wanted something unique. At one point, the WWE Championship, Universal Championship, and both Women's Championships were carbon copies of each other. Luckily for the diehard fans, Triple H heard their voices. Starting from 2023, he quietly started replacing some championship belts. Perhaps his greatest victory in this regard was doing away with the terrible Universal Championship and reintroducing an updated World Heavyweight Championship design. There are likely still more redesigned championships in WWE's future. 12. Better storylines. Vince McMahon had long been hailed as a genius in the wrestling business. But while he was a brilliant businessman, he was never truly a genius booker or storyteller. Much of the magic WWE created during the 80s and 90s came from the minds of great wrestling figures like Pat Patterson, Chief Jay Strongbow, Gerald Briscoe, and others behind the scenes. In contrast, Triple H is a natural storyteller who pays attention to even the smallest details to help move a story forward. Under his leadership, there's noticeably more patience and continuity. He's also more open to listening to the fans and making changes when something isn't working. In his later years, McMahon became increasingly stubborn, often ignoring the audience and sticking to his own vision, even when it clearly wasn't connecting. But Triple H has changed that, and now the stories seem more realistic, which connect to the fans on a different scale. 13. Promoting tag team division. Under Vince McMahon's leadership, tag team wrestling was often treated as filler, with forced pairings and abrupt breakups becoming a common sight. Triple H, however, sees tag team wrestling as a critical part of the show. He's made a point to push established duos like the Usos, Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, and the Judgment Day, giving their stories real emotional depth and main event attention. He's also reunited fan-favorite teams from the NXT era, like DIY Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa, and has allowed them to tell stories that span months, not just weeks. Matches are no longer rushed either. They're allowed time to build, and tag titles have become meaningful again. By booking longer arcs with logical progression and consistent character motivations, Triple H has made tag team feuds feel just as personal and significant as singles rivalries. Fans are now once again excited about tag team matches, and they usually generate loud pops. 14. Importance on midcard titles. Under Vince, the Intercontinental and United States Championships often felt like background props. They were almost useless, and even the title holders would disappear from TV for weeks. The belts rarely played a meaningful role in storylines, and the fans didn't give a shit about them either. However, Triple H has completely changed that by elevating both titles on Raw and SmackDown. This has given champions like Gunther and Austin Theory consistent screen time, credible challengers, and lengthy reigns. These belts now symbolize more than just filler, they represent stepping stones to the main event. Gunther, in particular, has redefined the Intercontinental Championship with his dominant 666-day reign. Similarly, the US title has been involved in major storylines and is treated with real importance. By restoring the credibility of these championships, Triple H has created more opportunities for mid-card talent to get over organically and has made the weekly shows more dynamic. 15. Fresh feuds. Vince McMahon was very annoying when it came to shuffling matches. He used to have the same old match play over and over again until the audiences couldn't take it anymore. It felt like an endless loop that you couldn't get out of, and this caused the matches to become too predictable. With Triple H at the helm, things have started to change. By mixing up rivalries and rotating the spotlight, he's kept the product fresh. He's also shown a willingness to elevate mid-card talent into bigger roles, creating new opportunities for stars like LA Knight, Bronson Reed, and Santos Escobar. This keeps the audience guessing and gives lesser-known wrestlers a real shot to shine. Instead of relying only on legends or part-timers to boost interest, Triple H has trusted the current roster to carry the show, and it's paid off. The matches seem more personal, and the storyline actually goes somewhere rather than running around in a loop. Even the lower card matches feel important, and every single storyline seems well connected to one another. This has resulted in fans getting more hyped for every single segment of every show, whether it's a title program or a personal grudge. 16. More crossovers with other brands. Under Vince McMahon, WWE never spoke about other promotions, let alone doing a crossover with them. He told everyone to act like they were the only brand, and he didn't want to endorse the others and give them free publicity. But Triple H has slightly altered that, as he believes the competition will only motivate them to do better. This doesn't mean cross-platform matches ever pay-per-view, but progress has definitely been made. Ever since Hunter took over, the brands like New Japan Pro Wrestling, Impact, and even AEW have been getting mentions through commentary. For instance, AJ Styles' time in NJPW is openly acknowledged, and the commentators will now mention stars' accomplishments outside WWE. Triple H also played a part in allowing Shinsuke Nakamura to wrestle the Great Muta in Noah, something unthinkable under Vince. WWE even signed a multi-year talent-sharing agreement with TNA in early 2025, which will allow some cross-platform matches. A prime example is the Hardy Boys, who came to WWE NXT and wrestled a match a few months ago, despite being contracted to TNA. While WWE still largely operates independently, this willingness to reference and even collaborate in small ways shows Triple H's respect for the industry as a whole, and his understanding that fans enjoy feeling like they're watching a global wrestling ecosystem, not an isolated bubble. 17. Balanced use of legends. Under Vince McMahon, WWE had a habit of bringing out legends mostly to squash current stars or steal the spotlight in a nostalgic but frustrating way. Triple H shifted that mindset. While he still features legends like The Edge, Rey Mysterio, or Trish Stratus, he uses them with much more purpose and restraint. Instead of letting them dominate the current roster, they now help elevate it. One of the best examples is Edge's rivalry with Judgment Day. He was shockingly kicked out of the villainous group he had created himself, and this resulted in an intense rivalry that helped the career of newer stars like Rhea Ripley and Dominic Mysterio. Similarly, when Trish Stratus, arguably the best female star of the 2000s, returned to fight Becky Lynch, it helped propel the latter's career even more. Triple H knows that legends like himself are important, but that doesn't mean they should be given the spotlight at the expense of upcoming superstars. 18. More international focus. In the past, almost all WWE events were held in the US, with the exception of some in Canada and the UK. But Triple H is trying to change that too. Ever since he took over, WWE is pushing to reach fans outside the US by conducting major shows, including pay-per-views. That partnership in Saudi Arabia has seen WWE conduct some big events like Royal Rumble, Crown Jewel, and the recent Night of Champions. Furthermore, WWE regularly goes on European tours in countries like Italy, France, Germany, where some of the loudest fans in the world reside. They even concocted an Elimination Chamber event down under in Australia, which turned out to be a major success. Triple H understands the power of global audiences and doesn't just see them as a revenue stream, but as part of the core WWE experience. He also made sure that international stars get their due, pushing talents like Gunther, Io Sky, and Santos Escobar. This global push gives international fans something they can emotionally connect to, whether it's a hometown hero or just a high-stakes match in their time zone. For the first time in years, WWE feels truly global again, not just in branding, but in spirit. 19. Rehiring released wrestlers. Triple H is a man of integrity. He believes in building strong bonds with their wrestlers, so that company can benefit from it in the long run. One of the first things he did after stepping into power was bringing back a group of talented wrestlers who were unfairly let go during the pandemic-era budget cuts. Under Vince, dozens of wrestlers were released, even ones who were fan favorites or had tons of potential. A lot of fans were frustrated, and honestly, so were the wrestlers. But Triple H seemed to recognize that many of those people were let go for the wrong reasons. So slowly, he started calling them back. Guys like Johnny Gargano, Karrion Kross, Dakota Kai, Braun Strowman, and others. These weren't just random hires either. These were wrestlers Triple H had worked with in NXT, people he believed in. These returns gave WWE a major morale boost, and fans welcomed them with open arms. It also showed that Triple H actually values long-term storytelling and in-ring talent, and that he's willing to undo the damage left behind. That simple move brought back trust between talent and management, which had been seriously lacking. 20. Focus on NXT. Triple H has always seen NXT as more than just a developmental brand. He treated it like a serious wrestling show with its own stars, stories, and identity. So when he took over the main roster creatively, he started using NXT more strategically to build the future of WWE. In the past, NXT was treated like a completely different show, and even the hardcore WWE fans had very little idea about it. So whenever a talented NXT star was drafted to the main roster, the fans didn't care much and would mostly ignore them. This hampered the storyline, and the promising NXT talent would slowly fade into obscurity. But now with the game at the helm, there's been a smoother transition from NXT to Raw or SmackDown. Stars like Braun Breaker, Ilya Dragunov, and Carmelo Hayes were being positioned for the big leagues in a way that actually made sense. Triple H made sure that these guys had momentum, character, and clear direction when they debuted. On the flip side, veterans like Baron Corbin or Dolph Ziggler went back to NXT to help elevate younger talent. That back and forth made the brand feel alive, and the fans were suddenly tuning into NXT every single week. 21. Slightly edgier content. Under Triple H, WWE has become noticeably more physical. While the company still sticks to its PG rating, matches have gradually become more intense and hard-hitting. Triple H is clearly trying to make the content much edgier, which is evidenced by the stiffer shots, use of weapons and table spots in recent years. You'll often see wrestlers come out of their matches looking genuinely beat up, with bruises and scrapes visible, something that was rare during Vince McMahon's overly polished era. Triple H also seems less hesitant about letting matches get a little messy, especially on premium live events. Whether it's blood from a hard-way injury or a more chaotic brawl, there's more realism now. Fans absolutely love it because fights are meant to be violent, not soft. After all, who doesn't love it when a guy is beaten to a pulp? 22. Less reliance on part-timers. One of the biggest and most welcome changes Triple H brought was dialing back WWE's obsession with part-time legends stealing the spotlight. For years under Vince, it seemed like every big show had some retired superstar popping up to headline matches. While those surprise appearances got fans talking, they often made it tough for the full-time wrestlers to truly shine and grow. One of the prime examples is The Rock, who usually shows up once a year, cuts a few electrifying promos, and leaves. Triple H changed that by putting his faith in the guys and girls who are actually in the trenches every day. Wrestlers like Seth Rollins, Bianca Belair, Rhea Ripley, and Cody Rhodes. These days, legends still show up, but they show up to support the current roster, not bury them over. Once again, an example is The Rock, who was at the recent WrestleManias, but just as a supporting cast. This makes WWE feel fresh and focused on the future, rather than stuck recycling old stories. 23. Social media integration. Triple H really understands that WWE fans don't just watch the shows quietly anymore. They talk about it all the time on social media. Instead of ignoring what people say, he actually listens. Whether it is on Twitter or Reddit, he pays attention to what fans like or don't like and changes storylines based on that. If something is not working, they change it faster than before. Triple H himself appears on various podcasts, like that Logan Paul show, where he shared a lot of insight about the business side of WWE. Fans love his honesty and have started trusting him more. Because of this, WWE is finally keeping up with how people watch TV now, and that is a big step forward.